Hello everyone and welcome to the Radio Cosmos podcast, episode number 3. We are so excited to be here today to talk about all things relationships and love. I am Joe and this is
Kina.
And we make affirmations, subliminals across the Radio Cosmos channel, and we are bringing you brand new content in the form of a podcast.
Today we want to bring to you guys our personal journey and what we have learned so far, all to do with relationships, relationship with ourselves, relationship with each other, partnerships, friendships. Yeah, hopefully you guys can learn something out of our own experience and what we've integrated so far.
Over the last 2.5 years since being with Kina, I've realised a lot of things, but some of the biggest breakthroughs I've had within me have come even in the last few days. So that's helped me realise that there is never this promised land, this perfect scenario of your relationship, and having an expectation of that can be quite unhealthy. And I definitely had that in the past of, okay, one day I'm going to be all completely healed and completely perfect and everything's going to be sunshine and rainbows. And the reality is it's not that, and I would not want it to be that. At that point, there's no growth. I think my biggest breakthrough came from realising, feeling within myself of inadequacy, like I needed someone else to always help me be successful. For example, searching for a manager or someone bigger than me to come in and save the day almost. That left me feeling like I couldn't achieve success on my own. I kind of learned over the last few days that having a partner that can not just make you feel more inadequate and look down upon you for sometimes feeling like you're not good enough. I'm gonna be real, I had a big cry over the last few days, and Kina didn't see it as weakness within me. She saw it as a strength that I was able to share and be open. That filled me with more strength than I've had before. I now feel that it's a safe space. We've created a safe space within our relationship, and it still feels weird, I'm not gonna lie. It still feels weird to cry. It feels like it's set me free on a new path, on a new journey of learning. I've realised that having a partner like that is the most important thing. My advice would be to myself back then, actively look for a partner that does that. Not just saying nothing or looking down on you, but actively trying to support you and build you up in your lowest moments.
Thank you for that share. No, for real. Yeah, there's so many pathways we can go down on that. The one that stuck out to me was prioritizing growth in relationships, putting that as your primary, center point in building and carry on a relationship for the long run. In reflection to Joe talking about his inadequacy, obviously we mirror each other, and during those days it would subconsciously influence me to kind of play into that belief, right? In a way, like judge him for being, not the way that I expected him to be. Because I come from a background of avoidant tendencies and running away, that really triggered that part inside of me and thinking elsewhere. It's like, should I end this relationship? Should I just run off? Most of these feelings that stem from fear is obviously an ego. And not to blame my ego for anything, because your ego is just trying to protect you, right? Your ego sees everything like it's life or death situation, perceiving this dynamic to be almost like a death. Like, oh my god, I'm not gonna be able to survive, so I better just jump ship now. Coming back to soul level, I realize riding that narrative is an illusion on itself. We're not trying to seek perfection in one another. We're not trying to seek a partner that has everything together. I mean, that'd be great. But what we're truly looking for and what is actually fulfilling inside of our hearts is feeling a sensation of safety, is feeling heard, is feeling seen. To be fair, the access towards that is being vulnerable with each other. And I'm just so lucky to have a partner we can actually open up and be vulnerable with. And I wish for everyone out there to experience this. Kind of wear your heart on your sleeve. When we lean into that discomfort, and for Joe's sake, maybe let out a cry. For me, just trying to hear him out through his discomfort. We have so much more compassion inside of us than we realize, I think. As humans, we understand each other's pains. It's relatable. Exactly. It's relatable to see someone go through their ups and downs. Personally, at this point, I realize that most relationship issues, at least coming from us, is the inability to let yourself be vulnerable. And therefore, compassion cannot be built because there's this like unrelatability. When you really go down to the core and allow others to hear you, hear your struggles, hear your humanity, I think we can all unite as one rather than be separate from one another. Damn, this is deep.
Most of the time, there is no need to actually break up.
Break up if you're going through any kind of physical abuse, definitely.
Oh, of course.
Yes.
Yeah, when I say most of the time, I mean in terms of these like squabbles within the relationship. Most of the time, it can be sort of just a few honest conversations is what we found.
I don't know. It's a very blurry line to go on. I read Richard Rudd's book called The Venus Sequence. I would highly recommend it if you guys are really in the journey of healing your heart space and becoming the best version of yourself. Yeah, Richard Rudd's explanation about the purpose of relationships is to unravel all the karma within yourself. And it doesn't matter who you are met with, that karma alone on a personal note will just come out no matter what. I hope I'm not like misinterpreting his message. A lot of times emotional abuse, for example, like narcissism, gaslighting, all of that is one individual's karma that is really being brought up to light here to be dealt with between two people. And if you are brave enough, if you're courageous enough in your heart and your soul to ultimately become light, then I believe Richard Rudd would highly encourage you to stay and really push through that tension so that you can come out the other ends with so much more light, with so much more love, with so much more compassion. And if that person truly was still someone who is narcissistic, kind of like a bad person, let's just say that, then they will just naturally drop off in your life. Maybe this is like food for thought, because it definitely did open my eyes to, do partnerships really have to end? Do romantic partnerships really have to end at this certain point? Or could it be that we're just in fear of seeing more of ourselves and revealing more of the karma within ourselves? And so therefore we end it when it's not ready to be ended in that way. And then we run to another person for that karma to be brought up again for another round, right? What do you think?
I completely hear what you're saying, and I agree with what you're saying. But I do think still in certain instances there's more than enough premise to cut things off when it becomes like a toxic situation. I'd say that sitting through a toxic situation because you think, I can make this work, that can end up creating more toxicity. That's what can have a large like psychological effect on people. But I don't think that's quite what you were saying in terms of like staying through that kind of thing. Obviously, where you were just saying there's like a spectrum of like different things where like this environment brings out that.
When you're in a toxic situation and both of you are not here to actually grow in that way, then obviously due date is probably near.
So moving on, I really wanted to bring up the topic of dynamics because divorce rates are higher. I think that's largely down to the dynamic of couples not being what they truly desire. It's very natural for me to come from a family of like 50-50 splitting. That maybe isn't what people really want within them, but we're conditioned to think that that's normal for everyone. Whereas Kina comes from a culture of provided by the man. And that's something that I really like, but I want Kina to kind of go deeper into that.
I just want to clarify that this is by no means telling anyone they should live in this way. I just came to a conclusion that this is the best relationship dynamic between heterosexual, as man and woman relationship, to sit in this type of polarity so that it draws out the best energy within ourselves. I've just seen that when a man can be a provider, right, and provide the foundations, etc., and the woman is allowed to not necessarily think about it, carry it, maybe even open up the time and space for her to be creative. When the phase of parenthood does come in, she has more time to be met with a child and nurture the child. This kind of polarity works in harmony with what our biology kind of craves. So I'm a little bit more traditional in that way. And because we have a goal of wanting to bring out our ultimate essence, him being in his divine masculinity and mine being in my divine femininity, the physicalities of how the relationship is built also kind of needs to embody that, right? Yeah, and our ultimate goal is obviously not to divorce. Like, we want a healthy, harmonious relationship moving forward and to bridge a lineage that is strong. And yeah, I just believe that is the way it should be for us in order to bring in a healthy lineage. I do believe there's a conversation to be had on what society deems as right for you versus what is right for you in the heart center. There has been a lot of friends that I've talked to in the female space where the 50-50 dynamic they can comply to, but you can see, and some have even expressed that that is not what they truly desire in their heart space. It's really interesting because in society, especially in the Western world, it's socially acceptable or maybe even proposed to people that a 50-50 dynamic is what empowers us and brings like equality to the world. And I'm not saying it doesn't, but with just personal experience and also conversations with fellow female friends, they're trying to compromise rather than they are allowing their hearts to lead. Their heart wants one thing, but their mind tells them that, oh, it should be okay. Oh, let's just keep the standard. It is what is accepted in society. I truly believe you should always stick to your heart's desires and wait for someone who has the same mentality, has the same mindset and wave, because there's like 8 billion people out there. Somehow universe will bring you guys together because we live in an abundant world. We live in an abundant world that the universe will even support your lack, abundance and lack. So if you believe that you lack options in that way, then universe will show you more of that. If you believe that, you know what, I'm gonna align with my heart. If my heart wants a 50-50 dynamic, or my heart wants a traditional provider, you know, housewife type of dynamic, whatever you can dream of, then allow yourself to open up to the idea that that can happen for you, because it really does. And also quiet down the voices of other people. This is your life. Like, this is not your friend's life. This is something that you don't really have to take in consideration on other people's opinions, because this is your one life, you know, and like stick by it. Value your heart, like value your heart's needs and desires. The last thing you want to do is like live a life that is mediocre and you resent maybe the other or yourself, in a way settling because society told you to live this way, or you have somehow allowed society to let you believe that it is only right to live in that way.
It is really all down to, like Kina just said, why take other people's opinions into account? Why even take our opinion into account? Because it is you that matters at the end of the day. It's what you want, what you feel. Something else that popped into my head while you were talking is about like adaptive dynamics. For example, we have got together when we're not at a place in our life that we see as our end goal. This is where adaptive dynamics come into it, because obviously right now we're not at a place where we can do that, me supporting the foundation. We've adapted our dynamic where we can still feel like that by the small things, whether it's I pay for the coffees, and if that's difficult certain months, then we'll go for coffee less, you know. So Kina feels in that natural energy, as well as me feeling more in my masculine energy. Feels really good to us, doesn't it?
It's interesting that you call it adaptive dynamics. I prioritize the inner world of wanting to do that, because I do believe there are people out there who kind of look like a provider. For example, they have all the wealth in the world, but actually their mentality is very scarce, broken, and they won't prioritize you or like the future family in that way. It is about the actions that they take and not necessarily the decor that is around them. Same goes for show. Everything is deeper than just what is seen on the surface. The last thing we want to do is judge a book by its cover in seeking your relationships and partnerships. The reason why I have so much faith and trust in our partnership is because we have aligned values. And I think also when manifesting a partner, right, and writing down your list of what you desire, your dynamics, your polarity between each other, etc., is to focus in on aligning that friendship aspect, the values such as what your spiritual beliefs are, if you have any. Are you religious? Is that important to you? Again, do you want children? Do you not want children? The big questions. Those should be the forefront of your concerns in relationships rather than the color of their hair or, I don't know, their race, their nationality.
It's probably a good point to wrap it up today, otherwise we could talk about this forever. So that is love and relationships from us in conjunction with our wifey material affirmations, which are up on the channel. We will link at the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'm Joe.
I'm Kina.
And it's been a lot of fun. See you next time. Peace.